Hey folks, welcome to another episode from Pro Engineering. This is going to be another installment in the I Fixed It series. This is a Tyco Mini Outlaw. It's one of these older toy grade RC cars from, I would say, the early 90s. And the gimmick, which was very common to have gimmicks in that era, wasn't good enough to just be good. You had to do something. And this car's gimmick was to put this external engine, quote unquote, with 2 extra batteries in the bed to simulate additional power. Technically, you weren't really simulating it because you did get an extra 3 volts if you were running alkalines. Unfortunately, this thing is broken. It's in excellent shape. It's practically new. In fact, it may actually be new. So we need to see what's wrong with it and fix it, hopefully. It's electronic. I'm not an electrical engineer by any stretch of the imagination, but we're going to give it a go. And hopefully at the end of this episode, it's running. But probably not. So I went ahead and put 4 rechargeable batteries in it. They are fully charged. The Power Boost engine has got 2 rechargeable batteries as well. And this one here has a 9 volt. So let's turn the radio on. And that's already a problem because I don't see a light. Is that even a light? Oh, wait a minute. That is not an actual, I thought there was a bulb. It isn't. So it is possible that this is on. I can turn the truck on next. Is there a light on the truck? Don't see a light anywhere on the pickup either. So let's tell it to go forward and reverse, and it looks like we are currently without power. I'll put the engine on the back and see if that makes any difference. And man, that makes this thing just so heavy. And oh, it actually even has a 2-speed transmission. Any difference? Nothing at all. Let's open this up and see if we have continuity. I don't know if I can fix it, but let's just take it apart and see if there's anything that we can see is not working properly. I've opened the radio and it seems fine. I checked the voltage at the terminals and it's getting 9 volts. I've checked the voltage at the switches. It's got power, but still it's not doing anything. It's possible the crystal is bad, but you know, at this point, the more likely culprit may be the truck. So let's look at that next. I pulled the body off and immediately I found these 2 bare wires. I also found a missing screw here, and this whole lid, in fact, is loose. The suspension is missing a couple of screws there. So it appears that this vehicle has been taken apart, probably to see what was wrong with it. So maybe we're not going to be successful here. I'm assuming that these went to a light. Let's find out. Let's turn this. Oh, it's on still. And if those are a LED, we should get around 3 volts. Nope, nothing. I unfortunately don't really know what I'm looking for. What I can do is measure voltage off of the batteries to see if that's where we're losing power. So let's go from this lead to this lead, and that's pretty good. We should have 4.8 volts from NiCad or NIM batteries, maybe a little more than that. Let's try and pull this PCB off. When I pulled the PCB out, you can see that it is new. The capacitors look great. There's nothing really leaking. It's hard to tell if there's any broken solder joints, but flipping it over, I suppose we could heat up every single one of the terminals, but they all look pretty good. What I did find is this lone wire, which goes to the expansion battery pack. This wire here is very, very bad. It's almost going to come off. Same with this brown wire. It's really, these are the motor wires. So I found where that purple wire went. There was this little pad right here that says violet. So I soldered that on, put the batteries back in it. The car is on, I think. We'll turn the radio on, I think. And it's not doing, oh. Nice. Well, that was why it wasn't going, but it's still not going to steer because we don't have any, well, wires attached. So now we got to figure out where the steering goes. Just resoldering this blue wire and the brown wire because they came off after I barely even touched the wires. Okay, good. I feel better about that now. After a lot of searching, I really have a feeling that these two terminals that say relay, that both show signs of too much soldering and a whole bunch of flux all over them. I think these two are where these wires went. I wanted to make sure that the motor actually worked for the steering, so I've got this 4.8 volt brick of batteries. We've got one side attached to that side of the motor, and we'll just tap it to this. All right, so we do have operational steering. Cool. Well, thanks to the Nico Tyco Radio Shack Tayo Vintage RC Cars and Beyond Facebook page, one of the members, Jamie, did disassemble one of his cars for me, and it showed that this red wire goes to this relay area here, and the red goes to the number 1 and the gray goes to the number 2. His car was a little bit of a different model. It wasn't the Outlaw version, but nevertheless, that still is the best place for me to start. So let's go ahead and connect red to 1 and gray to 2. Worst case scenario, we'll have to reverse them. Let's turn the car on now. And the remote, probably should have done the other way around. For a fact, I know that the throttle works. Let's try the throttle. Reverse. Forward. Let's see if we have any steering. I find it unlikely. So still nothing from the steering side of things. I did resolder every one of the connectors here in the event that one of these was bad. And I think maybe the next thing to do is come through here and start touching up some of the contacts on this PCB. I took the iron and touched off on every single one of the pads. A number of them had nearly no solder on them. So now they've got good connections. However, in the process of doing this, I realized something that I'd completely forgotten about, which was a lot of older RC cars will not simply steer. Many of them, you had to actually give the vehicle throttle in order for it to steer. So I went ahead and grabbed the remote, which I have beautifully disassembled, gone ahead and given it throttle, and then steering. And there we have it. This old car is alive again. But while it's there, I want to see if this radio worked as well. This is from my turbo hopper. The gun radio did not. If I gave it throttle or steering, it would only activate reverse. But this other 2-stick radio, so it's forward, reverse, and it does in fact steer. Very cool. Well, now that that's working, I did put some more screws in this thing because it was disassembled. I also put a screw in for the power boost engine, which was also missing. The main chassis has been reassembled. I went ahead and added the screw that was missing, snugged that one up there. It's a little bit of a gap here, but I think that's there's really not much you can do. There's nothing to hold it down. And the radio has been reassembled. And now for the body. The next thing we need to test is that power boost engine. Does it actually work? All right, it's in low right now, so let's give it some gas. Oops, sorry. Let's give it some gas. Okay. And now we can install this. Let's try and press it straight down and latch the rear end here. Okay, that seems to be in. This thing is so heavy. All right, and lift it up again. Wow, that is more of a difference than I had anticipated. Well, nevertheless, it's working. I have to admit that I'm surprised. Halfway through filming this video, I figured, I'm just gonna go ahead and delete the footage. I'm not gonna get this thing working. But, you know, a little bit of stubbornness and we've got something operational. So the next time that you see this vehicle will be during the buyer's guide, where we can see it buzzing around and maybe get an idea how much this ridiculously heavy engine does here at the rear. I really hope you enjoyed this installment of the iFixit series, and believe me, we'll have more of them. Thank you all so much for watching. We'll see you next time.